Welcome to this week's episode of Claw Convos. In just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Cameron Ross, the founder of Celise BioProducts, which is a company that's helping to save the world's plastic pollution problem. And Cameron was on the Forbes Next 1000 list. That's actually how we were connected with him. He was also one of the youngest on the list, and we just found his story super interesting. So we're excited to get him on in just a few minutes here and learn more about his story, his company, and lessons that he's learned as an entrepreneur and as a young entrepreneur. And we're drinking. This is the trick to the trade. You get your cup.
This is I'm mixing flavors.
You get your cup, and then you crack your next one so that you don't have to make the crack noise halfway through the episode when you drink it.
Or you just drink it down and then fill it up beforehand. How many do you go through in an episode?
I just went through 2. Hey guys, this is Sheila and Maya Dunn, and you're listening to Claw Convos. Let's go, guys. Let's get it done, bitches. Thanks so much for joining this. It's great to meet you.
Well, I guess I'm branding today, so.
Oh, there we go.
No, thanks for having me.
Too, but awesome. Okay, so welcome to Claw Convos. We're your hosts, Sheila and Maya Dunn, and today we're joined by Cam, who is the founder and CEO of Celise BioProducts and was also one of the youngest on the Forbes Next 1000 list. So we're super excited to have you here, Cam. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much for having me again. I think I'm second youngest behind you or both of you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was funny. There's like some 20-year-olds, some 22-year-olds, but I don't know if it's like by month or if we're just like, I'll call myself the youngest, but I don't know that I was. But awesome. So to get started, could you just tell us like your story these past few years, maybe like starting from when you got to college?
When I got to college, wow, going way back. I started, I went to American University up in Northwest DC, and I got accepted into the incubator program there with an idea before I even got accepted into the college. So that was kind of funny. It was like, I hope I get accepted now. So no, their incubator program is what really drove me to come to AU. I mean, Professor Tommy White and Bellows that run it are incredible.
Awesome.
And I just knew I wanted to be in this network. So I came into American with an idea. It was called Blue Cloud, and it was a microfinancing company to help smaller scale companies, startups with the Jobs Act passing and all, to get funding from people like me that wanted to invest in companies but didn't really have hundreds of thousands of dollars to sink into them. A couple thousand at a time.
At 18, yeah.
It failed miserably. It was pretty bad. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, we got development going. There were a ton of pivots. At the end, it just kind of, had to break away. This was back in 2017. And I was already working on Celise at the time. And that was a whole different thing where I kind of just said, it's time for me to, focus on Celise, see if I can build this company up instead. And, truth be told, I was 100% more passionate about building Celise at the time, and I was more confident in my abilities to run this business as opposed to a tech company, microfinancing, dealing with all that legislation. I am not that person, so let's forget about that. But building Celise, it wasn't like an aha moment or anything. It was me, on a hiking trip with some friends and some people, on a few of them actually, just ended up, not enjoying them because we picked up pocketfuls or trash bagfuls of waste scattered on these hiking trails, and that's really annoying when you're just trying to go out, and we picked them up from the gorges in West Virginia. I picked up trash in Norway. It's everywhere. It's ridiculous. And there's usually trash cans on these trailheads, but people just throw them out there. And in that frustration, it was kind of just an idea like, well, what if packaging was designed to work for the environment rather than against it, and that's kind of where the idea was conceptualized to try to make packaging materials just more sustainable. And so when I started looking into it, it was, it kind of hurt, but it was also great to see, that little turtle get impaled with that straw, because that just set off, the whole Strawgate thing, and that kind of started leading people to be more aware of how damaging plastic really is. And it was great timing. I ended up, after I spent like a year on research and just trying to figure out what do I want to make, how do we want to make it, and yeah, so I unveiled the concept company at a business plan pitch competition at George Mason in spring of 2018. And we got runner up. We got great validation, great feedback from the audience. I unveiled compostable plastic water bottles. I got a lot of feedback on that and realized, that wasn't the way to go. Quick pivot, went to doing straws, cups, and lids. Especially it was great in DC because we just had that straw ban go into effect in 2019. So I had all of 2018 to work on building the brand, building inventory, trying to get in with distributors and franchises and restaurants in the area to, make sure we're one of those premium providers for compostable alternatives to plastic for food service providers.
So real quick, what was the feedback that said don't do compostable water bottles and switch to straws and lids and cups?
It was a multitude of things. It was a lot of, people just being sincere, like, hey, we love this, we hope you, succeed. And there were a few people. So the judge feedback was great. And then it was kind of like my own internal thinking about it. This is going to be too difficult because one, the material is not ready for those kind of applications. For example, low heat tolerance. If you leave a water bottle or a soda bottle made from this in your car in the middle of summer, like somewhere in Virginia Beach, where I'm from originally, it gets up to like 130 degrees in your car if it's in the sunlight. So it would melt the bottle, and therefore you just have your drink all over your cup holders, and people would, start complaining. So it didn't seem to make sense to start off with bottles. The other thing was the high startup cost to get bottles made, and then also working with bottling companies as a new, as someone who's, I was studying the chemistry and all that, as someone that didn't have any traction beforehand, it wasn't the right way to go. But I realized I could start off not necessarily smaller, but a little bit more direct. One thing, better cash flow with food service as opposed to just going with the bottles.
Gotcha.
So the material wasn't ready. The cost was too high. It might have melted in your drink. It just didn't make sense.
Got it.
And that was in 2018 when you pivoted to straws and cups and lids?
Yes, I unveiled it in spring. We got runner up in that pitch competition. So I used that money to officially incorporate the business in the summer of 2018 and get initial inventory, get that made, set up the manufacturing process, whatnot. And then, I didn't start selling until September of 2018. And that kind of really changed for us in that time frame because we got to deal with Compass Coffee, which is one of the biggest coffee franchises in the DC area. They got a handful of locations. They've been great. They do a lot of volume. They're happy to work with a local company. So it was really great for us. It was a completely custom job. None of our inventory worked for them. So we made orange straws with custom wrapping that told people don't do this. And they say shark friendly and they're all cute and whatnot. So we had worked on that, and then we got Compass Coffee. So that was great. That kind of just jump started us a little bit. But to get to that point, I had sent 800 or 900 emails and cold calls out to just local restaurants and anybody, just say, hey, we've got this product, are you interested? And we got a few people to respond, but Compass Coffee was the big one, the one we went full out with, and started making our first deliveries in February of 2019, end of January, early February 2019. And then it kind of just snowfalled from there. In the spring of 2019, we won $95,000 with the pitch competitions. We picked up a lot of franchise business. So I dropped out of AU at the end of 2019 spring semester, and I just focused on this full time, got into some accelerator programs, started working on some new angles, and it just took off.
Was it you pitching in all those pitch competitions?
It
Always.
was just me.
Just you. Nice.
Wow. Yeah, you
And a
know.
lot of people don't pitching is hard. Pitching is really, really hard. I spent a lot of time in our incubator just hogging the presentation, room and just going through pitches. I probably ran through our pitch and practiced it and reiterated it and pitched 2 people and got feedback, hours and hours and hours before them. But yeah, we did TCU's Values and Ventures competition was perfect for us. It looked for ventures that were not only, viable for investment, but also that gave back, had value to add to, to the business, to give back to social entrepreneurship kind of thing. And we won that. First place was great. And it was an awesome event. I'd love to, publicize them a little bit right here because it was an incredible event and it was very competitive. It was I didn't think we would make it to, the top 5, let alone win it. Cause I thought some of the pitches there were phenomenal. So it was great to win that. That was 40 grand. And then right after that or before it, we went to UGA's Great Consumer Brands competition and we won that. And that was awesome. We made it to the finals of Princeton's Tiger Launch. And we did a few others. So it was all in that time frame. So it was really hard because I knew this was happening in 2019. So I scheduled my classes to fall all on Monday and all on Thursday. So from Monday from like 9:45, I think is when it started, till 8 p.m. with maybe 1 hour of break, I was completely unavailable. That was all classes. And Thursday it was -1 block class. So I made it like that so I could have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday to just work on the business and, the weekends to study and, see friends and stuff. So that it helps, with all these pitch competitions falling generally on the weekend so they could work around schedules. I could fly out on the weekend, come back and still not miss too much class.
So you basically chose your college off this incubator and then drop out of college for this company. In high school or before high school, were you just like, I'm going to be a CEO, there's no questions asked, like I know what I want to be, and that's starting a company? Or how'd you kind of get into this entrepreneurship mode?
So in high school, I was highly competitive in baseball. I played a ton of baseball, tried to stay active. I was trying to play for college, but I threw my arm out as a pitcher and I had to get an ulnar nerve surgery. So I was the youngest person to ever get that surgery when I was 15.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it took
youngest of everything.
Yeah, no. It's just, it took 6 months for me to even gain back, full motion in my arm. So that hurt. But it allowed me to focus more, on the last 2 years of high school, what I wanted to do. And so so in high school, I worked on a few ideas. I worked on an app with a friend that, it was called Sell a Block. And what it did was prevent your network from basically, it would basically just shut off your phone while you're driving. So you wouldn't look at your phone. And, a lot of people didn't like that, but a lot of parents did because it was safety for their kids. So that was something that, I worked on. And then I worked on a solar power phone case that was able to expand about 4 times bigger than itself for sun charging. So I worked on a few things in high school, nothing that I ever really took off with. I did a program called Odyssey of the Mind, which was really awesome. And it was a global, have you heard of it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did you ever go to World Finals or anything like that?
I wish.
No.
Yeah. Just heard of it.
Oh, almost. Yeah. We were at Worlds too. No, we weren't. But I think our school offered it. I don't even know that I was in it. Were you, Sheila?
Yeah, I just know I've heard of it.
Well, that's cool that you know about it. I'm glad you do and that you did it. I was very competitive in that. We did the balsa wood structure. And so we made these structures that weighed, less than a quarter, and you have to put weight on them until they break. And you had to, creatively combine the skit with it. So I just focused on building the structures, and I was determined to, hold the highest weight. That's all I focused on. But Virginia, I'm from Virginia. We have a really solid competition team in Virginia. So we went to world finals every year in my high school years. So 4 years, it was really great. Honestly, best experiences still to this day of my life going to world finals.
Wow.
It was, yeah, it had a huge impact on me, and, you know, creatively speaking too. I really loved it. So that Odyssey of the Mind was something, you know, I still stay in touch with our coach from that, and, you know, some of the team members and, you know, younger teams that were coming up from elementary, middle school, try to help them out. Yeah, that was a big thing for me. I was mainly just Odyssey of the Mind and baseball in high school. And then when I came to college, I was ready to, you know, hit the ground, but I've always been business savvy.
Do you have siblings, and did your parents do any like thing with entrepreneurship that kind of gave you that as an option, or did you just?
No, thankfully I didn't have to share anything. I'm an only child. And my parents, no, nothing entrepreneurially. We live in a really high flood zone in Virginia Beach area. And so in Hurricane Isabel, our house got wiped out. And my parents, something happened with the insurance that it didn't fully cover it or something like that. So it took them a long time to recover from that. So I always wanted to be not just financially set, but, you know, I just kind of do something that don't be a bad, you know, don't be a dick, sorry, you know, just be a good person. And, you know, and to me, in my mind, building things that, you know, will leave the world a little bit better than when we entered it. That's kind of what that means to me. And, you know, being a decent person, and, you know, not just respectfully, but just, you know, what our purpose is and whatnot.
Would you say that's your favorite part about being an entrepreneur, being able to kind of control the impact you have on the world, and I guess control your own life too? But
it's definitely, yeah, you're right. It's definitely that freedom and the flexibility it has. I never wanted a 9-to-5 job. I can tell you that right off the bat. I know I didn't want to do anything traditional in that sense. I wanted to be free. That was one thing, you know, watching my parents work their, you know, tails off, whatever I'm allowed to say for your podcast, to just try to, you know, dig themselves out of that hole that, you know, the hurricane put them in. So that really, I definitely didn't want that. And I, you know, I 100, you know, love and respect my parents for, you know, what they did to get out of that. And that was a big impact. But yeah, I definitely did not want that. I wanted to be free and flexible. I love to hike. I want to be able to just up and leave on a weekend and go somewhere whenever I want. So if I had anyone say, hey, come to California with me next week, I'll say, cool, I'll book the flight right now. That's, you know, that's what I aspire to have. But it does come back. Yeah, it sounds great. But it does come back to wanting to build things that that just leave the world a little bit better. And, you know, I'm very passionate about nature, and, you know, I for some reason I love chemistry. I don't know why. I was never a chemistry major. I was finance, actually. This was all self-taught, and I just love how it works and how we can use plastics and, you know, traditional plastics, and then make bioplastics and make marine degradable plastics. I just think it's so fascinating, and being able to do that all day long, in addition to, you know, hiring people and trying to build an organization where people share that similar mission, those relationships, that's very rewarding to me.
yeah, that's awesome. We could have switched majors. I was full science, chem, and I don't know that I share the same passion, but
Yeah. Where'd you go?
We both went to Colgate University.
And that's in New York?
Yeah, it's a small
Okay.
school, upstate New York.
Okay.
But
Well,
sorry, what?
no, I was gonna say, did you drop out, or are you still in school?
I actually graduated in December in 2020. So
Congratulations.
rushed it right along, but yeah, thanks. I wanted to talk to you about that. Actually, something I found interesting is that you chose to drop out. With how many years did you have left? 2 or?
Yeah, so I had 2 years left in 2019. Yeah, I had 2 years left. It was a very hard decision. People, you know, they idolize dropouts. They should not. You know, I hate telling people I'm a dropout. I really do. It's kind of, I don't know. I feel like it creates an air of, you know, holier art thou kind of thing when I tell people that, and I just hate that. So I tell people I've been stopped out I plan to go back to school, but no, it was, when we won all those pitch competitions and we started getting all these new clients, and then it came to the point where, some of my grades and the classes I really didn't want to be in started to suffer, as opposed to the ones I did want to be in. And it wasn't a good mindset in there. And it was the timing. Unfortunately, I had a situation where it worked out for me, for living up to be able to stay in here in DC, and just a few factors. It took me about 2 months to decide if I actually wanted to drop out. I initially just stopped out. So I stayed enrolled if I could come back if it failed over the summer or the fall, which it didn't. So thankfully, I just said, basically in fall of 2019, I officially dropped out. And I was like, I can always come back to school. I can't always, make my mark in this space. So I just decided to run full time with it, and no complaints here. I have been fine.
Yeah, it's something that we, now being graduated, I'm like, I'm so relieved by it, because in school and working on the company was a constant back and forth of yeah, I was actually pretty serious, but I think one thing that kind of allowed me to be more flexible was having a partner that was out of school. So I was fortunate in that case that they could, do more time, but
it's night and day. Yeah, it's totally. So I just graduated, in May, but we got sent home in March. So starting in March, absolutely no school was considered. But yeah, it's totally. And I also had a partner who was full-time, fortunately, but I don't know how I would have been able to do it if we didn't have those partners. And then also, like, now looking back, I have no regrets as well. I'm glad I finished, but then also it's like, if I had been doing this full-time for the past 3-4 years, our business would be in an entirely different spot. Mm-hmm. So I definitely, understand that. And I took an academic leave as well, and focused full-time on my business, and then ended up going back. So you always have that option. And I also think, I'm curious, what do you think the future of higher education is? Do you think it's going to be the four-year degree continue?
More power to you. I'm glad that, you said that's awesome that you kind of had a similar path that way. I mean, you're still graduating. You said that's awesome. I would like to have a degree. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like to discuss this topic. I for one, I do believe in higher education, and it's definitely, that certificate does mean a lot, and you do learn a lot. And it's not, your degree is not about, what the paper says. It's about, the networks you've made, the people you've known, the experiences you've built to get that degree, the internships that come with it. There's a lot of things behind that piece of paper. Mm-hmm. I don't like being defined by it, that, having that degree, and they're expensive. And that's one thing. So, looking forward, I believe a lot of people are getting a little agitated with the current system, and, how traditional degrees are going about, what job opportunities are out there. And I think a lot of people are awakening to that. They want to build more practical rather than theoretical universities. I mean, you've heard, Elon Musk talk about building his own school for his kids, and, others, and talk, other, entrepreneurs out there are trying to get away from traditional educations. And I'm all about that. I would rather, if I ever had a kid, I would rather go to a school that specializes in, things I'm interested in, like plasma gasification, or something that you just don't get in traditional educations. Mm-hmm. That, I'm hard of hearing. I wear hearing aids, and I know a lot of people don't know that because I read lips. But for me, having to take an understanding music class in college for $2,500 a class or whatever it was, that's just, it does not make sense. And that's a requirement to have that credit and something to make me a more well-rounded person. But, I like to study on my own time. I read a ton of books. I watch a ton of documentaries and movies, and I just don't see traditional education following through it. In 10 years, I'm sure we're going to see a radical shift in, some of the things that are offered, or new universities popping up that come to prominence.
We asked that question a fair amount, and it's a conversation pretty common in our family. Sheila and I are the youngest of 6. And so we were
Wow.
kind of always pushed towards well, my father is our dad is a big entrepreneur, but we were also still pushed towards like the typical go to college for 4 years and get a job. And I think all of us in our own ways kind of despised the college system. But you know, whatever, we're all through it now. So
No, I'm with you. I mean, I can't speak on the siblings, but I'm the first in my entire family to go to a 4-year college. Most of them went to trade schools and or 2-year degrees to be accountants and computer automated designers and stuff like that, which is really cool. And you know, I honestly, looking at it, I would probably have rather done that. But you know, I can't complain. I'm very happy with how things worked out for me, and you know what we make of it. So, but
So you were recently named to the DC's 25 under 25. That was recent?
Yeah, that was a couple months ago, actually. Yeah, that was really awesome. I think it was in the summer, summer of 2020. We were 25. I was 25 under 25. It was a good feeling. Probably not as good as a feeling as Forbes with you guys, but I mean, you clearly know it feels great to be on that list, especially being in the first 250. But 25 under 25 in DC is awesome. And before that, in 2019, somehow we got on DCNO's radar, and we were, you know, one of the top 50 on fire companies of 2020 as a startup. So that was also really cool, and they held a big event for that. So yeah, 25 under 25 was awesome.
Congratulations, that's amazing. And so, how do you think being in DC? So I actually just moved here in October of 2020. But how do you think you were from Virginia and Virginia Beach area, but how did that influence your passion for, you know, creating these products and your interest in chemistry, or maybe not necessarily interest in chemistry, but your desire? I think DC is a very unique city in that way.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and you know, I'm glad you're here, by the way. That's great. I'm unfortunate timing. This awful 7 days without the sun we've had has been terrible. So it's glad it's been like 60 degrees lately.
Yeah.
It really hasn't been this bad in a while. DC, I specifically, so I honestly, out of all the cities in the US, I love DC the most, and that was something I wanted to be around. And I was kind of, so DC's in Alexandria, Northern Virginia, Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax County, DC, and you know, some of Southern Maryland. Huge entrepreneurial and startup ecosystem, huge. And there's an unlimited amount of resources available to us. We've got tons of incubators. You've got 1776. You've got tons of investors. You've got K Street Capital. You've got the Alexandria Innovation Hub, or whatever it is now. You've got Arlington. They're all putting money, like city states specifically are putting money to bring startups into the area. So like right now, we're looking to, you know, set up another facility or another facility somewhere in Manassas, Virginia. But we've been talking with economic councils around here, and they really want to keep us in the area. And you know, there's rightly so. I mean, you know, we're growing pretty fast. We're going to be hiring a lot of people soon. Yeah. So DC and the surrounding areas, the DMV area as a whole has been, this is another reason that I decided to come here. And in 2019, when we got accepted into Mass Challenge's Houston Accelerator. So I went out to Houston for a little while in the summer of 2019, which was terrible because it was the hottest temperature they've ever recorded in like 50 some years or whatever. It was 133 degrees. It was something. You step outside, you instantly sweat. And you know, I've been to LA and San Francisco, and you know, DC, 100% credit to DC, you know, you being here. The only thing better than that is honestly the Texas startup ecosystem. It is unlike anything I've ever seen. Fort Worth, the DFW area, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, they're all connected. They don't see themselves as one individual city. They all connect, and they're a huge just startup ecosystem. They're their own thing. I have never seen anything like it. Just the access to capital, to resources that they provide you. The only thing close to that I can imagine is San Francisco and DC, and I know Boston's picking up as well.
Oh, that's great to hear you say that, because I just moved here. I mean, it's almost been 4 months or so, a little over that. But you come to DC and you think it's all politics and stuff, but there's a lot of startups, and I'm in a co-working now, a co-working space that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Things that you wouldn't expect necessarily unless maybe you're from the area or do more research, but I had no idea.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's funny that you said that too, because American University, they pride themselves as being a political school. We've got the School of Public Affairs and Communications and all this stuff, but we've also got great business schools here, and people forget, like, we've got Georgetown, we've got Howard, we've got and George Washington University downtown is medical, highly awesome hospital and medical research that they're doing down there. And DC is not just political. That's just it's just where it happens to be. The United States' capital, but there's a lot more to us.
Some of your early day hustle stories. You texted me like some funny stories if you have those to share.
Yeah, I do actually have a pretty good story. I've been scared about, putting it into the public just because, not for any reason in particular, but I think it's a good startup story. I think a lot of people should hear about, because it truly is. Looking back on it, I still don't really laugh about it, but it's funny. So our Compass Coffee order back in the day, the very first order, it got delayed. And so we had to coordinate with Compass Coffee's distributor, which is Leonard Paper in Baltimore. And we had to make a delivery up there for January 25th or something like that. And basically the week before it was supposed to arrive, no one knew where it was. The order was gone. Literally, like, they weren't sure if it was at a port, if it was on the truck, if it was at the distribution facility, just gone. And so I ordered basically 3 or 4 months worth of inventory to have extra, so we wouldn't have to do this again. So it could all come in one. So it just made sense to do that. Basically what happened was, I got a call the day we were supposed to deliver it, when thankfully it was like one of DC's first snowstorms in a while back then. That was, it was spring, January 2019. It was a snowstorm. So I used that. And I was like, hey, we're not gonna be able to make the delivery tomorrow. The snowstorm's got our truck so a little backed up. We're not gonna be able to drive in this. Do you mind if we just come on Monday or the next, whenever it was? I don't remember the exact day. And they said, yeah, that's fine. We just need these in like ASAP. We're running out of inventory. Well, thankfully, right after I had said that, they called me and said, Cameron, we found your order. It's in New York. And I'm like, well, why is it in New York? It's supposed to be in DC. And they're like, it's at, St. George's warehouse or whatever it is where they were storing it. I'm like, well, why is it there? It was supposed to come directly to to here. So basically the next morning, that night I was like, well, shit, I got to go up to New York to pick these up. So I got on a 3 a.m. train, Amtrak, to New York. I got off at the Newark station, and it was 3 a.m. So I got there about 6:30, 7 a.m. And mind you, it's snowing. It's New York. It's 17 degrees at 7 a.m. when the sun's not out. So I arrived. I have to go find a U-Haul. So I go to the U-Haul, and I'm feeling terrible. I don't know why. I just feel awful at this point in time. And I get there, and then the U-Haul wouldn't open. So I'm standing in the freezing cold. I'm severely underdressed for 30 minutes. Finally, after 30 minutes, I get in the U-Haul. I take that U-Haul, I go to the port or the warehouse, and we have to go load up the truck. And it's 84 boxes or whatever it was, just threw them into the back of the truck. I had to do that all by myself. And they weren't even palletized, which sucked. So I had to manually pick up each one and put them in the truck. They were supposed to be palletized too. They weren't. So eventually I get the truck loaded. I have to head off from New Jersey. It was like 9:30 in the morning or something when we got done. And I had to drive, it was supposed to be a 3.5 hour trip back to DC, but it took about 6 with Jersey drivers, not to put anything down with them, but it was awful. And halfway through that trip, I had to stop too, because I figured out I had the flu. I was deathly sick. I had to stop. I had to pick up Mucinex or whatever it was, cough drops. I had to just sit for an hour just because I was just not able to do this. And And this is why it comes in. I'm glad you have partners, because I didn't for a number of reasons, but I was solo on this. And somehow I got that truck back to DC, and then I had to unload it into my single dorm. And at the same time, somehow AU just lost all of their carts. And so I had to find this little 2x4 plywood thing with literally suitcase wheels on the bottom of it to just stack up 5 or 6 boxes at a time. Thankfully, I had elevators, take them up the elevator, take it to my dorm room, and pile them up in there. And I was able to leave. And so it took me 2.5 hours to do that. I remember that. I couldn't go to sleep either. And as bad as I felt, I had to print out label every single box that we were going to make for the delivery tomorrow. And then I had to get up at 4 a.m. to drive up to Baltimore to make our 5 a.m. appointment time to drop off the boxes so they could take them out to Compass Coffees that day. So I got up at 4 a.m., took that same U-Haul to Baltimore, dropped off all of those. I didn't even get out. I was like, hey, you guys unload it. Like, I'm just too sick to do this. You don't want to be around me. So just go unload it. They unloaded it, thankfully. And then I was able to take off, drove back to DC, made record time. I was not happy with it. Drove back to DC, dropped off that U-Haul. I Rhode Island, took the metro on the red line all the way back to AU, which was 45 minutes. I remember I stopped at Panera to pick up an order, had some soup, and then I remember I passed out for a day and a half after that. I missed my class. I remember that. It was a Thursday. I missed class all day, slept through Friday. Woke up Saturday. So that was one of our early hustle stories that were pretty good. But it worked out, and thankfully haven't had to do that again.
You made it. You got the order in.
Got the order, got the delivery, got paid. Everything was perfectly as it should have been. After that, it was just a pain in the ass to do that.
Does Compass Coffee know this story?
No, but I'll tell.
Now they might.
I'll tell the buyers. They can listen to this podcast. They can tell that story. I hope they like the dedication. I was committed to these guys. I was like, no matter what, I'm gonna get their order in when they need it. I was determined.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's an iconic hustle story. I don't know if I have that one like that can compare to that. I don't know if I've gone to those lengths. That's what it takes.
I mean, I was committed. That was what I was going to make this order. I was going to get paid for this no matter what happens. We're doing it. We're going to follow through.
So what's next for you, for Celise, and for you?
So 2020 specifically, we were big in food service. We had a huge franchise contract set up for 2020. We had worked hard. When I say we, it's me, the company, and I have sales reps, and I have some other people, warehouse guys. We worked really hard to get these deals to fruition. And food service, time from initiating a sales conversation to closing that, minimum probably 6 months. So we had been working on these since, Mass Challenge all the way through the fall, winter. Now we're in spring. And we had one deal, that was huge, that was supposed to be signed in February. Or no, it was in March. It was supposed to be the first week of March. So COVID pretty much killed all of them. It just wasn't possible for them to even, follow through. They just couldn't. And, it's understandable, but that, really kills us too. But thankfully, before that, we had been getting a ton of requests from the cannabis and pharmaceutical industry to make packaging for them. And so in January, I said, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to start making cannabis packaging because, we had a guy who said basically he needs this much. And it was, an opportunity for us to get into a space that didn't have anything remotely sustainable. So for all of 2020, we just spent our time developing packaging for the cannabis industry. And so we basically pivoted from just being food service to maybe 20% of our business now is food service. And the rest of it is consumer packaged goods or CPG, where, but now instead of being a food service provider of alternatives, we're a, marine degradable, biodegradable, and compostable all around custom manufacturing, company. We do everything. So right now we're making vial containers, pre-roll containers for the cannabis industry. We're making lids and jars next. We're working on a patent pending design pill bottle. We're working on, blister packaging, all these different things that are regulated, by the way. That means, they have to pass child resistance testing, anti-poison, prevention, senior friendliness, all of these different things, which is, high sunk cost. So I can see why a lot of these manufacturers in this space aren't spending the money to get sustainable. But I can't complain. We sold out our production almost immediately for what we can produce. So all we have to do, we're supposed to pass the child resistance testing, if not tomorrow, next week we get our certification for it. And then we're just going to be Godspeed producing as much as we can because we've already sold it all. I can't keep up. I've already got another mold on standby to scale our production significantly from, hundreds of thousands of units to multi-million units a month. So that's what we're working on right now. We're very excited about regulated packaging because people don't know that, food service is terrible at plastic waste, but pharmaceutical and cannabis and, cosmetics and soap and, all these other industries, they're just as bad. You just don't realize it because they're heavier. There's more to it than, straws. Starting in straws is, it doesn't really make that big of an impact, but it's awareness. So I'm glad, to be in a position right now where we have some unique proprietary ways of being an actual impact, driver in these industries for people needing custom packaging or for cannabis and pharmaceutical needs. So I'm very happy for the next, 12 to 18 months, see where it takes us.
That is so exciting. Yeah, to be branching into the pharma industry, to have all the success underneath you. Just hearing it, I get kind of like excited. I can hear like the excitement in your voice. That's really awesome, and I'm excited to follow the company in 2021 and see how it evolves.
I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, congratulations on all your success. Sounds like amazing things are happening. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for having me, and both of you as well. Huge, again, congrats on Forbes Next 1000 and for having me here today. I'm glad I was able to hopefully inspire somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks guys so much for watching. We're going to be releasing episodes weekly and we're trying to hit the bar. So we're going to peace out. Be sure to like, subscribe, all the other things, all the social medias, comment, share, retweet, copy, paste link. Isn't that the TikTok thing? Just full send it. Get it done. Get us some likes, guys. Hope you guys enjoy.